Friends, family, and keepers of the faith, welcome to another Del Boy blog. And as always, we're going to date stamp this. So it's year 3, blog 46. In legacy numbers, it's blog 150. And it's dated the 1st of January 2025. Yeah, the first time I've used 2025. We're in a new year. And as always, I just sort of like look out the window, don't I, and just look and see what today brings. And to be quite honest, it's mostly covered in snow. Yes, we've had some snowfall. It missed us for Christmas, but we've got it sort of like early on in this year. But we'll hear a little bit more about that really in the news, because it doesn't really affect me as much as it affects the rest of Britain. But I hope everybody's had a fantastic start to the new year. For many people, it's a sort of renewal. It will be for me as well. New Year was more a year looking back and sort of like reflection, and sort of like explaining to myself really ways that I want to move forward, things that I'm going to concentrate on, which I've left far too long not being looked at. But we'll get the news out of the way before we start talking about me. I just wanted to get across that I hope anybody that's watching this is having a great start to the new year. 2024, it has been a sort of like a rough year for many. It's had its bad points for me, for definite. But we've got to stop this negativity and look forward to this year. Let's be a little bit more optimistic, shall we say. But anyway, let's start off with the news. And as always, I start off with the war, because it is still going. Trump has not interrupted anything just yet. We're still in the 100 days bracket of when he won the election over in America. So he doesn't actually come in and write new policies and start his regime. And I'm expecting major changes going on in the war early on this year. But what have I got that was in the news that I read on the web just in the last couple of days? I read this that said President Zelensky on Saturday said that Russian and Korean forces had suffered heavy losses in battles in southern Russia. Russia also said on Saturday that they vowed to retaliate after it accused Ukraine of firing US-supplied ATACMS missiles, ATACMS missiles, at the border regions of Belgorod on Thursday, Friday. They also said all missiles were shot down. Yeah. So basically both sides turning around and saying major this, major that, vows, all this sort of stuff. Standard affair, I suppose. I looked at, I did have a quick look at my blog for this time last year. Same sort of thing was going on, vows about what's going to be happening over the coming months and all this sort of stuff. We just want the war to end. That's how I'll end that. And lots and lots of sort of like singular points for the UK news this week. So first off, we've got flights have been diverted and cancelled as snow has hit the UK airports. Yep. It's amazing how so many other countries can handle the snow, but UK, we're absolutely terrible at it. Then we've got Luke Littler has become the world champion at darts on Friday. He's aged 17. It's been an amazing year for this young man. Some people may have seen me on and Mamemeister on his Friday waffle, and we ended the waffle early to watch the darts. The darts has been a sort of a fixture for me in the new year. They do the World Championships. They used to do it at the Lakeside. This time it was in London at the Apollo, I believe. And it started off a number of documentaries as well on Sky. They're doing the We Were Kings, talking about the crafty Cockney, you know, Eric Bristow, Jockey Wilson, Lowe, and many other dart players that I remember back in the 80s. And it's fun looking back at those, because the 80s is a very big year for me, being more entering into my teen years. I remember it more. It's funny that compared to the first singular years, you know, when I was at primary school and that, I still, when I think back, I can almost smell the air and how the world looked to me when I was at primary school. But I've got heavy emotional feel for my teenage years, and my memory is a little bit sharper towards what was going on in the world in my teenage years. So there were many good times where I saw my dad and my mum watching the darts. It was always on, and I remember my dad always turning around and saying to my mum, that he would take her to the Lakeside to watch the darts, and seeing my mum get quite excited about that because she liked it, and she was a dart player. She played for a local pub team in my town, and my dad was quite a good dart player, and we used to have a dart board in the kitchen. So that was very, very interesting. So, you know, that was really, really good. I enjoyed that. So that was one of the bits of news. And then other bits of news were the hospital flu admissions rose by 12% in 1 week. Wow. That's a lot. Yeah, the flu. I've actually received a text message from my mum to say about her flu jabs and to take it if she hasn't done it already. I will speak to my mother, but it's up to her whether she wants that. Other news, Northern Lights bring in the new year across Scotland. Yeah, that was on the news. Fantastic pictures of the Northern Lights. And it was interesting to see that they were happening, actually, New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. And a lot of the coverage was also across the north of England. So that was lovely and colourful. Then there were many New Year celebrations were cancelled due to severe weather warnings, but London was mostly unaffected. Yes, so we saw all of the fireworks going off at the London Eye and around Big Ben. We saw the crowds. On TV, there was lots of music going on. Sophie Ellis-Bextor, I believe, had a New Year's Eve party, which apparently wasn't met with fantastic reception. But yeah, it was all the high winds, I think, that was being bashed across the country at that point. Also in the news, the New Year's Honours List has been announced. Gareth Southgate and Stephen Fry are lead mentions, but popular amongst the nominations are 4 former post office postmasters who got OBEs for services to justice after the IT Horizon scandal. Yeah, that was a big news event, wasn't it, about the post office and all of the postmasters that were given prison sentences or criminal records, and then the big U-turn as the government stepped in and found out that it was a huge conspiracy. So I'm just going to have to pause for a moment because my mother's just got up and I just want to make sure she's all right and got a cup of tea. And then I'll just explain what my week's been like. So sorry about that. You might have heard her come through the door. Won't be a moment. Yeah, so sorry about that. I just wanted to check my mum because it is still quite early in the Del Boy household. And she wasn't up when I started the blog because I thought, I can probably get a big chunk of this out of the way before she gets up. And, of course, life gets in the way. But I'd finished with the news. I finished with the last bit, which was the New Year's honours list. And we then sort of turn and face a little bit to me and my week. And to be quite honest, it's been a very quiet week. Monday, all that I did was I went for a walk and I got a nice 3-mile walk in. That was great. Tuesday, which is New Year's Eve, I got another walk in. This time it was a little bit shorter, 2 miles, but I had some shopping to do. So, of course, after I'd done my walk and made sure my mother was okay, I got a list up together and went shopping. And oh my God, you just see the chaos of cars. It was almost like, we all have to stock up with 15 loaves and 10 or 20 pints of milk or something because God forbid the shops are going to be shut for a day. Oh my God, do you know what I mean? But actually the longest queue that I saw was for the lottery. I haven't really thought about the lottery, to be quite honest, and I didn't do it at all last year. Didn't even do a lucky dip. I have no idea of how many millionaires have been made this year on the lottery. I know that my dad always said you got to be in it to win it, and it's not hard. It doesn't hurt to put the odd £1 or £2 each week aside for it. But yeah, since my dad died, we've been on and off on that. We used to use the same numbers and all of that sort of stuff. The National Lottery, I haven't really talked about it in my blogs, but with my dad, it was probably a bit of a bigger thing. So after the shopping was done, it was spend a little bit of time with my mum. I watched New Year's Eve telly really with my mum. It was a very quiet affair. I watched the fireworks at 12 o'clock, but I watched them from bed. If you ever notice this side here, you'll see the head post of my bed. It faces that way. And then you've got the telly just there. And I just watched it from there and then drifted off to sleep. To be quite honest, New Year is a very diluted thing for me. It used to mean going out with my friends and having a New Year's Eve drink and see if you can get a hug off of a girl or something, you know what I mean? But no, not to me now. It's you're in your 50s and it's all about reflection for me. But I didn't do much of that until the next day. So we do get to Wednesday and I did go for a walk. And to be quite honest, I wish I hadn't. I put on a coat, looked outside, pouring down with rain. And I only got to the end of the street and I was soaked. My feet were soaked, my trousers were soaked. The coat was all right, you know what I mean? My head and all that sort of stuff, totally dry. But oh my God, it was squelch, 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 squelch all the way down the streets that I walk along. And basically I got to I did about a mile. Just over a mile, if I think I recorded, before I got back in and had to change my socks, my trousers, my shoes. I had to put them on the radiator. It was atrocious, really. But I got my Garmin reported a badge that said a strong start for the year in regards to my exercise. I've only had that badge 8 years in a row, which means that every New Year's Day for the last 8 years I've done a walk consecutively. So yeah, little wins. And really, there wasn't really much else to report. We had some bad news. I had some bad news. I wanted to make sure my mother was comfortable. I wanted to cook her a New Year's roast. Yeah, we do a Christmas Day roast. Sometimes we'll do a Boxing Day one, but I wanted to do totally the New Year's one. And the meat had already been cooked, from Christmas Day. But the roasties needed to be done, and unfortunately the cooker has started to go wrong. What's happening is you turn the fan oven on and set the temperature, but it turns itself off after half an hour. Now, I thought I might have accidentally touched the timer, and I can't find the book for the oven because it's like 20 odd years, and my dad kept the books up all together. So that's really weird. But I kept fiddling with that, and I think I finally figured out what the symbols mean and what it needs to be set to, and it still does it. So I went on the internet, and the internet said that particular, the Electrolux ovens, which is what we've got, they have a protective circuit. It could be the temperature sensor. So it gets to a certain temperature and goes, oh, protect myself, boom, off. Because the fan is going. You can hear the fan making the noise. It's spinning around. So it might be the temperature sensor and the protective circuit that's damaged. But we're having trouble on who we can get in to repair it, or whether we might need a new one. So that's not good for New Year's Day. But New Year's Day for me was reflection. I looked at a lot of YouTube on New Year's Day, and to be quite honest, I got what I saw. I got what I thought I would see, and that is a lot of YouTube videos, not my friends, but YouTube videos doing their top 2024 movies, top 2024 games, top 2024 TV shows that they've seen in the year. And to be quite honest, very, very predictable and boring from my point of view. Now, that's not a reflection on my friends. My friends have done a number of them, and they've been very enjoyable. But I think that they've done something that I think is much easier to understand, and that is not go through every film. They've done sort of like a top 5, like, oh, this is the top 5 games I played, and all of that sort of stuff. Much more manageable. And those ones were enjoyable. I don't mind that. In fact, the best one I saw was news events of 2024. That was nice, going back and because Charlie Brooker, is it Charles Brooker or Charlie Brooker? He used to do a TV wipe or a New Year's wipe, and he used to do a funny January to December, what was going on in the news and on TV and at the cinema. It was all a big sort of like hour-long thing. He doesn't do that anymore, which is a shame. But there you go. I saw what I could on YouTube, and it was nowhere near the satire that Charlie Brooker would do in his wipe, which was a shame. So on top of the reflection of what 2024 was for me, I did the live with Ian Hill, the Ramblings, like I always do on a Wednesday. We didn't do it on Christmas Day for obvious reasons. It's a bit of a different day, and of course it is up to Ian when he wants to broadcast, and he didn't want to do that Christmas Day. So we did it in on the New Year, and it was about 4.5 hours long, and we had a great time. Oh my God, we were talking about Christmas, we were talking about what we got, and we were talking about things about what we'd like to see in 2025. Food came into it again. All sorts of things, and the people in the room seemed very, very jolly, and Had a whale of a time. Absolutely fantastic. That was the highlight, I think, actually, of New Year's Day. So then we get past New Year's Day, Thursday we get to now, and we took most of the Christmas decorations down. Well, I did. My mum can't. She's too old. Can't get up ladders and things to get down all sorts of overhanging things, reefs and garnishes and stuff. So we got those down. And I spent a little bit of time on my PC consolidating my hard drives. Because what I've noticed is that sometimes I've noticed that my drives have reached 100%. That's what they call usage, 100% usage, where it's reading and writing. And they've been like that for 20 or 30 minutes before they drop. So what I did, I noticed that my Steam account, that's my game sort of like front end, is spread across all my drives. And one of the reasons why your hard drive could be at 100% maximum, even though you're doing nothing, is it's the bus the SATA uses is overloaded. So I made sure that the drives for the chipset was up to date, and then I cleared a total of a drive, created a new Steam folder, and then moved the games that were across multiple drives across to this one drive. And I tell you what, it's been so much faster for doing that. It doesn't take an age to restart. It doesn't take an age to shut down and start up. So obviously the bus was being overloaded just by having things dragged across multiple drives. So there's a top tip for everybody. You see, I would have known that years back when I was as sharp as a tack, because I was working on an IT help desk, and basically I was a Windows configuration accredited technician. So of course I've got my accreditation for installing and maintaining and administrating Windows. I know all about Active Directory and so forth. So I thought to myself, one of the things that I could do as shorts, right, for YouTube, is do some little tips for Windows. Like here's one. In your Windows folder, you've got a directory called Prefetch. Now, a lot of people don't know what that folder is, but basically it's where Windows stores your Windows dimensions for the programs that you open. So you open up sort of like File Explorer, and it will open up in the same location, in the same square window dimensions as the last time it was open. And the reason for that is it's got a little file that's in a folder called Prefetch. And I tell you what, that folder can fill incredibly fast, because obviously every time you open up your browser, File Explorer, all of your game front ends, any program like OBS that I'm using, Photoshop, all open up in a certain window if you've got multiple monitors, and with certain dimensions and certain configurations. And most of it is stored in the Prefetch folder. If you want to save yourself a little bit of hard disk space, you can actually clear that folder down. You can go to the C drive, go to Windows, find the folder Prefetch. You'll see a ton of files in there. You can delete the lot. And when you open up your window the next time, it will be as if it's never been opened before. And it will start again. So if you're not concerned about, where things opened up and what size they are, you can actually scrub the Prefetch window every now and again and conserve some C drive, hard drive space. There you are, top tip. Can't say fairer than that. And there's lots of folders like that, temp folders in your user's account, hidden folders, all of that sort of stuff. I could do a shorts for some of this stuff. Might be handy, especially as I've just solved my 100% problem on my drives. By the way, there are many other ways of solving that. One of them is the Windows search service. You could turn that off. That will aid with the hard drive 100% usage. But anyway, I digress. So Thursday was about consolidating the drives, and on Friday I did so because I didn't do a walk on Thursday, I did one on Friday, and I did a live with Mamemeister. He phoned me up the day before on Thursday, wished me a happy new year, and on Friday he came along and said, do you want to do an hour with me on my waffle? It'll only be for an hour because I want to watch the darts. And I said, oh yeah, I'm watching the darts. Definitely would love to do an hour. And that was it, because as you know, on Saturday it's blog prep. So pretty much you've now got the full SP on my week. And when it comes to reflection, there's nothing really to talk about. It was a pretty good week. Very relaxing from a certain perspective, and of course I go back to work on Monday, so today is sort of like the last day to get anything done, and I'm in sort of like a mood of doing some late clearing up, making myself comfortable for when I go back to work, because obviously I then won't be able to do any of that sort of stuff until I finish work at 4 or 5 o'clock each day. And of course, you then only got Saturday and Sunday to wait for to do anything that's major. So the only concern is the oven at the moment. Don't know what we're going to do about that. And the other thing is that I know that my sister wanted to go and visit my father's grave today, because we usually go up at Christmas. And the snow's arrived. So I'm expecting my sister to give me a call to say, yes, we're going, or no, we're not. And the funny thing about it is I'm hoping she says no, because I don't really fancy going across a field full of snow. You know what I mean? To get to my dad's grave. But I always do look a little bit forward to going to my dad's grave, because I like clearing it down, making sure it's all okay, putting some flowers down and just reflecting on last year with my dad. So yeah, it's one of those toin cost flip things on what I do there, and that in regards to that. So now we get to the next bit, which is the shout outs. And just like last year, and just like last week, Christmas and New Year is all about family, getting some of your own stuff done. And so obviously, I don't expect everybody to be commenting, on my little blog. But when it happens, I'm incredibly happy. And there's a number of people that I need to shout out for here, because they've all left a comment, wish me a happy new year, etc., etc. So, in no particular order, the shout outs are Ian Hill, The Ramblings, Colin Thompson, Muckman-Movies, Wee Bob Art, Colin Jones, aka Ponder, Martroid, Mamemeister, Denny, and Steve's Gaming. So all of those, big thank you. And anybody that's watching, just thank you very much for watching. I try to make this entertaining, but it does have a purpose, and its purpose is mainly for my nephew and nieces in the future, so that they can see their uncle, and they can see what was going on in his mind, what was going on in his life, what was his concerns, what was the happiness that he was experiencing. And of course, anything that basically came through the post that was of interest. So thanks to all of those people. And as always, when I get to that point, I then start going down and seeing what they've actually said and reading out their comments verbatim. So the first one that comes up, and I do need a sip, I'm sorry, you might see me taking a drink like this, but it's Words and Peace Denny, who always writes an awful lot. And I'm glad he does. I get to know so much about what's going on with him. So he starts off with, hello, mate. So I'm on 3 weeks of night shifts again. Not the best way to start off 2025, but I'm determined to get some videos out. That's good. Really want to see some. I haven't seen too many from him in 2024, and I know that he's conscious of that and really wants to entertain us, so that's brilliant. You mentioned about the queue to get your meat for Christmas at the butcher's. My folks had the same issue. An hour and a half they waited. The queue was halfway down the road to collect the turkey and other joints for the festive season, yeah. I keep forgetting every year it's like that, you know. It happened the year before. And it's amazing that I got caught up in that. And also I had physio, you see. So it wasn't the sort of like easiest of days, even if it was a couple of days before Christmas. So, wow. Continues, New Year's Eve was very quiet night for us. My nephew had caught the norovirus, so my sister could only stop an hour. I think I was in bed by 10 o'clock. The fireworks only lasted about half an hour into the new year. The festive season seems to die a little bit every year, and this year was awful. No special feelings at all. Sorry to hear that. Yeah, I'm sort of like feeling the same. I hope your sister and your nephew are a bit better. The fireworks display. Yeah, I heard the fireworks going a little bit up until about 1:45, so 45 minutes past midnight. Around our area, the fireworks were going. There was a couple of flourishes before midnight, which is strange. You think to yourself, what's the bloody point? That's what the fireworks are for. What are you doing them before? And it's not exactly like fireworks night. So that was stupid. Maybe they would test fireworks. I don't know. But fireworks, aren't they always? Don't we always moan about them? I mean, I don't know if I moaned about them as much when I was younger. Maybe it's something when I get older. But we've got a stray cat, and it didn't like the fireworks when the cat was still inside our house. It had to go out to get to its house, to get to its proper house, you know, where it lives. And I was just thinking what those fireworks are like when you've got an animal that's outside and permanent, you know, pretty much permanently outside. Must be awful. So yeah, I can understand the negativity a bit. The Christmas schedule was tripe. Not one thing I wanted to see. I longed to see the return of one-off specials like Walking with Dinosaurs. One year they followed that up with The Lost World starring Bob Hopkins. Yeah, I miss those sorts of like things. It used to be the start of little series of things that we used to get quite excited about. I remember back in the 80s, I think Tomorrow's World would start off at the beginning, and so would Panorama and all of that sort of stuff. Not that they were exciting shows for me to watch, but I'm just saying January used to be the start of Wish You Were Here holiday programs and all of that sort of stuff. Now it's any old crappy stuff that starts off. I don't think there's any rhyme or reason to it. He continues, didn't know about Prime Gaming. Thanks for that. I'll check it out sometime. Yeah, maybe I didn't explain it very well, but basically Prime Gaming. If you've got a Prime account, there is a website called Prime Gaming. When you go there, every month they give you a code to a free game. But the code is usually to another website, you know, like a code for your Steam account. So they'll give you a free game for Steam, a free game for your Epic, free game for Good Old Games website, etc., etc., and their own gaming platform. So, and of course, it goes across your Android operating system, and many other like tablets and so forth, plus downloadable content, what they call DLC. There's loads of codes for those. They give you bits and bobs for things like Fortnite and stuff. I was just explaining, a lot of people don't even know about that, and it's a major way of getting codes every month. And if you're spending money on a Prime account, you might as well utilize it. You know, once that month's gone and they refresh the keys, they're gone, and you missed out. So you might as well redeem the keys or give them to somebody else, you know, because all you have to do is hit the redeem. It gives you a code. You can email that code to somebody else. You know, you don't have to have it yourself. It's not linked to you until you redeem it. So there you are. He continues. Update on Flash Gordon, as I forgot to add about the picture quality. The picture in 4K popped absolutely beautifully. Dolby Vision brought out the best of the 35mm film stock. This backed up with a DTS2 or 5.1 soundtrack. I like the fact that the grain was still present in the picture. No overdone noise reduction here. Galaxy Quest next week and a report on that soon. Yeah, I didn't mean to go on about, what was like. I just knew that you got the Flash Gordon and you didn't get your telly for several months, and you said, I'm not going to watch that until I've got my new telly. And I knew that you'd got your new telly. So I was sort of like, waiting to know, what's it like on your new telly? What does it look like? Is it black? Are the blacks black? Are the colours pop? All of this sort of stuff. I get excited for something that's not even mine. So, so it was interesting that was brilliant to know. So he continues. So question for this week. Oh God, here we go. I've picked up the US Life on Mars series to go with my UK set. Both followed the same format of going back to the 70s, but the ending was totally different for each production. Can you think of any other TV series that did this? Oh, God. There must be loads. But I never really liked UK shows that the US then changed for their own format. I always preferred our own. But I suppose what comes to mind? Well, there's The Office, for a start, isn't there? I mean, we had a TV series phenomenon called The Office with Ricky Gervais. Did a couple of seasons of it, with a Christmas special and an ending. The Americans took it, made about 7 or 8 seasons of it, and around about 20 episodes a season. They must have gone into the 100 or 200 episode realm for that. So they took it to a huge extreme, and so therefore the ending would have been different for The Office in America. I know House of Cards was successful in the US, taking away obviously the stink of the main actor and what was going on legally in his life. But that was a well-known, well-received program, BBC drama, that the Americans then turned into a huge HBO show. Totally changed it, I think. So obviously that had a different ending. And what else can I think of? Ooh. I mean, obviously there's Steptoe and Son was Sanford and Son. Man About the House was it Three's Company or something like that? But that's going back a long time. Even the Golden Girls comes from a show over here. Being Human comes to mind. That's That's a horror science fiction show I haven't thought about for a while. That's where there was a werewolf, a vampire, and a ghost living in a house. I think it lasted 4 or 5 seasons in the UK. I know the Americans got it and they lasted 1 season more. I remember them saying that it was more of a success in the US than it was over here. And yet over here it was a sort of like a cult hit, if you see what I mean. And it lasted, I think, an extra season. So there's more episodes. And I dare say the ending's different for that. But Being Human might be one that you'd be interested in if you've ever bought the UK set and wanted to buy the American one, because those would be piggybacked a little bit. And I think that's it. I don't think I can think of too many more. Not many modern ones come to mind. But yeah, that's great, Life on Mars. I forgot, the Americans did adapt that one. Did they do Ashes to Ashes? Not sure they did. Don't think they did with that. So thanks very much, and as always, pass my best wishes to your mother. I'll definitely do that. And just to let you know, my mother, I think she's had a nice new year. Her memory is not great. I've tried not to make the cooker a big concern for her, but obviously it's going to affect us because I have to cook my mum's dinners and I make jacket spuds for her and all sorts of stuff. I'll have to think of what I'm going to do here, especially as I'm back at work tomorrow. I won't have too much of a time to try and find an electrician or something. So yeah, something I've got to really think about. So anyway, that's my problem, not anybody else's. We move to Steve's Gaming. It says here, "Hi Del, this is just a short one." Bloody hell, what's up with you, man? It says, "I did plan on commenting some days ago, but I forgot, and I'm not feeling the best, so it didn't help. So my apologies for such a short comment, but I wanted to make some comment at least, and we'll throw one question at you." And he says, "What black and white UK TV series do you think is underrated and we should all watch it? All the best and love to your mum." Oh my God. It's hard to say because what somebody would think is underrated is probably not underrated to somebody else. Plus, UK. Ooh. Because a lot of shows that I watched were started off black and white, went colour. Doctor Who being one. The Saint being another. So, do you count those? I think we have to, don't we? So, one comes to mind straight away. I don't think it's underrated. It's well known. But it's absolutely fantastic and works as a black and white show more than it would in colour, and that's Quatermass and the Pit. The BBC's adaptation of Quatermass and the Pit in the 60s, absolutely phenomenal. All the tones and darkness and shadow and so forth just work so well with the eeriness of what's going on in Hobbs underground railway station. You know, the underground Hobbs End. Is it Hobbs? I think it was. Anyway, Quatermass and the Pit, definitely. I know that I watched Danger Man, which I don't think went to colour. Danger Man was great. I watched that all the way through because I was a big fan of The Prisoner. So once I'd watched The Prisoner and knew that it was a show after Danger Man and is loosely linked, I went back to Danger Man and loved it. Is it underrated? I don't know. I think it's quite well known. So Danger Man's one. I'm big on comedies, and I did like Dudley Moore, and Peter Cook, and they did a show called Not Only But Also, And I remember watching reruns of that on TV and getting the DVD collection of what's left of that show, because obviously BBC scrubbed an awful lot of the shows. So that's great. Not only, but also, I mean, I've already mentioned Doctor Who. So when we're talking about Doctor Who, we're talking about seasons 1 to 6. It gets to the Patrick Troughton era, ends, starts with John Pertwee, colour. That's season 7. So you've got 6 seasons in black and white that ran 1962 to 69. Yeah. So you got a huge array there. Armchair Theatre. Yeah. I like those Tales of the Unexpected shows. And I do remember that before all of that, there was something called Armchair Theatre that had some sort of like supernatural, scary type things. Had a brilliant opening of a chair that sort of rotated round. That was brilliant. Steptoe and Son started off from the comedy weekly, I think it was called Comedy Half Hour, and then developed into its own show. And that started off in black and white, but turned to colour. Again, is it an underrated thing? No, Steptoe and Son, well known. But yeah, it was Comedy Playhouse, that was right, that's what it was called. The Saint, again, started off in black and white, went to colour, mentioned that before. And of course, The Likely Lads. The very first season of The Likely Lads was a totally black and white show before it came back in the 70s as Whatever Happened to The Likely Lads, which is considered to be season 2. But it is a totally different title to a show. And, you know, even though it is a continuation of the original. So yeah, a lot of black and white stuff. I mean, if you go to America, it's a lot more. I've got Twilight Zones, Outer Limits. It just goes on. I mean, the start of Lost in Space was black and white. Lots and lots of black and white shows. The Munsters, all of that in the States. They really were in the golden age of TV. And when it went to colour, they went strength to strength, didn't they, through the 70s. So, yeah. Great question. Interesting. Absolutely brilliant. So, just going to take a sip. And we'll move on. So the next one we've got, thank you. I'm just going to say salute to Steve and salute to Denny. Thank you very much and Happy New Year to you. And we move to Ian Hill, The Ramblings. And we'll see what he's got to say. It says here, hi Del Boy, hope you and your mum are okay and keeping warm, because it's proper parky. Still not got the boiler fixed. The part hasn't arrived. This week has been awful for me mentally. On New Year's Eve, waiting like I've done for the workman, for the nurse to come and change my dressings. I rang them up and they said someone would definitely come, but of course they didn't. I'm really sick to death of all this. Today a nurse I know well came and she was appalled by it all. She would see my call had been logged, that there was no excuse. She was going to take what had happened up with the managers. I appreciated that. I've known her for a few years. I think, though, that I've learnt that it's no good for me to get into such a state by all this. I was very happy to have our live chat on Wednesday. It really cheered me up. Had a great time. Who would have thought, though, that we would discuss corned beef and baked beans? The only thing I actually watched on live TV was Wallace and Gromit, which was excellent. I did eventually watch Doctor Who. It was as bad as I expected. No longer the Doctor Who I used to look forward to for the Christmas special. However, I did watch a lot of films. 2 were my favourites of the year, Immaculate and Strange Darling. I've enjoyed the June Prophecy series you have sent me. Today, I also watched The Duchess, which you sent. a brilliant historical drama of the 18th century. I would talk a lot about the background to it. However, I will spare you the long lecture. I didn't review any music this week on my channel, but I was still listening to it. I loved Marillion Season's End, 1997, Steve Hogarth's vocal debut post Fish. I think he's amazing, does a great job. So my question of the week is, the apocalypse has arrived. Inside the shelter you can take lots of cans to live on, but it can only be one type, only one food type. What would it be? So I've got all these cans, but I can only have one food type. So what we're talking about is veg, meat, in tins, aren't we? Etc., etc. Well, it's very important to have a balanced diet, but you can't help it. The apocalypse has come and bang. So I suppose I've got to choose meat. Like you have minced beef, stew, all of those sorts of braised stuff in tins. They're not very nice. But at least you could choose some with vegetables in them. I'm going to find that very important, I would think, even though I'm not a big veg eater. I'm thinking that if I just had tins of peas, that's not going to be very good for me, is it, when I've got no meat going inside me? Or tinned carrots, or tinned sweet corn, all of this sort of stuff. It's one type, you see. I can only take, several of those, and there'll be no meat. Meat can contain veg. You can buy canned meat with veg in it. So I'm thinking that that's going to be more balanced. And of course, I am a meat eater. I'm not a veggie. I'm not a vegan. And I can totally understand that question would be great to point to anybody, because a vegan would have a totally different answer, and a veggie would have a totally different answer. So yeah, very good question. I hope that answers it. I think I'd have to go with tinned meat, matey. Minced beef, yeah, and braised steak, and all of the meatballs you can get in tin form. So you say all the best wishes and have a reet grand time. See, I'm getting better at saying that. And a happy New Year's to you, mate. And I hope this boiler really does get fixed soon. I wish you all the best of health. I know this dressing on your legs is incredibly difficult for you, but you do a marvellous job of your own channel to keep you smiling. Long may that go on. As much as I moan about it on how much I have to write down later on in my blog. But there you go. Happy New Year to you, mate, and thanks very much for Wednesday. It was brilliant. So we move on to Colin Thompson 7518, who's just left one line that says, Happy New Year, Del. Hope you and your mum is doing well. And fantastic. Thank you so much, Colin. Happy New Year to you as well. Absolutely fantastic. Hope you have a fantastic one as well. Absolutely brilliant. I'll pass that on to my mum. And then we get to Muckman-Movies. Nice friend of mine that I sort of discovered at the end of last year. Got a fantastic channel, by the way. And sent me a nice Christmas present that I opened on Christmas Day to everybody. I needed to do that. I don't do those types of unboxings. I don't find it really very clever to sort of just go, and I got this, and I got this, and I got this, when there's so many people that get nothing. I do know that it's important to those people, but I'm a bit mindful, I suppose, but I got no Christmas presents all those other years. I don't think it's bad for me for 1 year to do that, so I did that. So McMan says, Hi Del Boy, great to hear you both had a nice Christmas day. We had our Christmas dinner at the pub on Christmas Eve instead this year. Think we'll do that again next year, as it's much cheaper and the atmosphere was great. We were busy packing our bags on Christmas Day for flying to Madeira on Boxing Day. So it wasn't really the same, especially without Hadley being there. Yeah, Hadley being McMan's dog, which I showed a picture of on the Christmas card that came with it. He had a very bad time, and I can totally understand it when you have a family pet that's been with you for years die on you. It's almost a stake through your own heart. It really is difficult. And as long as he's in your thoughts, matey, and he always will be, it's absolutely fantastic. He continues, I never knew about games available on Prime. We'll have to have a look at that. Thanks for the info. Yeah, not a problem. That's what I like doing. Anything that I can give a little bit of knowledge out to, I'm absolutely great with. One for the new year. Can you play the game Exelon? I remember it being a groundbreaking game for the graphics on the Spectrum back in the day. I've answered that question to him, but I'll just quickly say what I put. I put, we'll do full reply on Sunday. That's what I put. That game, no problem. We'll do it when the series restarts in January, Excelsior. So I always end with Excelsior. Nobody ever actually asks why I answer with Excelsior, but I might explain that a little bit later on. But yes, it was Mamemeister actually that has interviewed the person who did the graphics for that game literally only a couple of weeks ago, McMan. If you look for Mamemeister and then look for the Nice and Nasty podcast and go to about episode 26, 27, you'll see that he interviewed him. And he talked about the complex nature of the Spectrum and how those graphics were developed. When it comes to the series, or should I say season 2, of Friends Requesting Games, I think I'm going to have to alter it about a bit. I had initially 7 specific friends, and the familiarity of these 7 friends is I've got their email address or they're on a Discord. So if I want to ask them to do a game, I could email them or communicate through Discord or Facebook, and they would come back with an answer. If I have no direct approach to talking to you, say through Discord or Facebook, or know your email address, then your request for a game would be once every however many times you comment on a YouTube stream. Plus, the important thing that I thought about the way that the games were requested is I didn't even know what the game was until the day before. So I'd ask the day before, get the same answer, and then record it the next day. So I had no chance of practicing or anything. It was simply load it up, play it from scratch without any practice. So you saw how rough I would be at the game. So you can imagine if you put a comment on a Sunday, then I've got to do it on the Monday, or I could practice all week, couldn't I? And it wouldn't be the same. The nice thing about it is, McMan, I have seen you join Discord. So we have a way to communicate. So maybe, just maybe, you'd like to give me, over the period of time, 7 or 8 games which make up a season. You know, you'll have to think of it ahead, start thinking about it. But the one thing is, you can't tell me what the games are till the day before I record it. So you have to wait for me to say, right, tell me what that game was. We'll have a chat about that, possibly during Ian Hill's live stream on whether you'd like to do that. Because I know you'll be watching this. So I'm going to say Happy New Year to you. Exelon is definitely going to get done, even if it's just a one-off special for you. And we'll go from there. I'm back at work on Monday, so the season will start, in a week or so. Once I've got the format correct on how it's going to be handled. So I'm just going to go and check on my mum again now. Won't be a moment. And we'll be back to the comments and then on to the next section. So, won't be a moment. And what was seconds to you was minutes for me. Got my mum a cup of tea. She's looking out the window and seeing all the snow and people walking through it. And she's having a whale of a time, and I made sure that she was warm. So that's great. It's important that I do all of that, so I hope you didn't mind. So we get to Colin Jones, a.k.a. Ponder. And he's written a little thing for me. He's put, TV is awful these days, full stop. I watch very little of it. I did watch Doctor Who, which was okay, nothing special. But Wallace and Gromit was, for me, the highlight of the whole season's TV. Yeah, I'll say it like I said sort of like last week, really, which is I poo-pooed the lineup, and I said that pretty much I watched BBC Two on Christmas Day, where there was a Roger Moore documentary which was absolutely excellent, a couple of films I wanted to watch, reruns of Morecambe and Wise and the Two Ronnies, that sort of thing. I did watch Wallace and Gromit. I've watched 20 minutes of Doctor Who. I really struggled in that 20 minutes as well. I will watch the end of it today. So, because, I mean, at the end of the day, it's Doctor Who. It's a beloved programme of mine. I have to watch it, really. But it is a struggle. Oh, it's a struggle these days. And I can understand it's not for a struggle for other people. Young people that have not come across Doctor Who will find that an entertaining show. I look at it from a perspective of me, which is what you do in any diary. And remember, the vlog is a diary. It's how I'm feeling today. If I've said anything adverse today, please understand it's only my feelings today. It's just what's going through my mind. In retrospect, when I think about it during the week, I go, yeah, I was a bit overly harsh there, whatever. I don't feel the same way the next day at all. So it really is a feelings thing. It's how your diary would be written. If I was doing this every day, I do it as a collective at the end of the week. So that's the bad side of it, because the blog really should be a daily thing, something I do every day, really. Maybe that's a way to look at it going forward. It would make this less than being 2 hours as being 10 minutes every day. Do you know what I mean? Maybe that's one way to look at it. I don't know. Have a think about that again when we get to year 4, which is not that far away. If you look at those numbers that I read out earlier on, and what was it? We're up to week 46. And you know how many weeks there are in a year, so you know we're not far from year 4, where there probably will be a format change. Anyway, I digress. Really glad to hear you and your mother had a nice Christmas. Sending her my best wishes. You know she'll get that, matey. Thank you very much. I stayed in all of Christmas and Boxing Day. It was lovely. Yeah, it's great, isn't it? If you work hard, having those couple of days plus the weekend then makes it slightly longer. It's lovely. I think Argos is all online now for ordering, with some click and collect in selected Sainsbury's stores. It's working for them though, because they're still going quite well. Yeah, we've got an Argos in our Sainsbury's. I don't use them very much. Sometimes I'll get the odd thing like a memory card if I need something really quick. But I must admit I am an Amazon man, and I say that with a retrospect again, where that's destroying the high street. But the high street prices, you know, I just wonder actually how the Boxing Day sales went and what the inflation and so forth is going to be like based on the January sales. Yeah. Loved every bit of deliberation from my comment. Thank you so much. I love your comment, matey. I love your blog. I try and leave a little note for you. Your blog doesn't really help with asking you a question for the next blog, if you see what I mean, because it's read 3 weeks later, but I'll have a think about that. I love your comments because they come every week and they make me think, and my comment is really just how well I think your blog is, without giving you really much feedback. I'll have a think about that. That's something for me to consolidate on. Yes, the Oscilloscope music video was me. Yes, he put a little thing on Discord. Absolutely brilliant. I watched that with great joy. Happy New Year again, my friend. Thank you very much for being my friend. I wish you a happy New Year shortly. But you have a question, and you've put, as we head into the new year, are there any upcoming releases expected in 2025 that you're looking forward to? This could be games, movies, even statues, anything you want to get that is already near the top of your wish list. Wow, that's very difficult for me because I've got so many fingers in so many pies. And to be quite honest, I'm not sure where we stand with physical media. There are a lot of films that I've always wanted to have, but every year they're not released. And the physical media industry for films and TV works on 3-month basis. So they don't tell you what's coming out in 6 months, 9 months. We hear little snippets of stuff. It was only Denny a month ago that said that 20th Century Fox have now converted all of the old Planet of the Apes films to 4K. And that means that there's going to be a box set. There's going to be singular films. We're hoping they come to physical media. That might mean that they're just going to go to streaming. Who knows? Physical media is in a right uproar at the moment. Let me see. When it comes to films, there's a ton of them, and I recommend that you might go and look at Ian Hill the Ramblings last Wednesday live, where he read out a load. I thought he was going to just mention the ones that he was looking forward to, and he read out, I think, probably about 50 films that are coming out next year. And he was reading out stuff like Minecraft, the film. Oh my God, am I looking forward to that? Am I buggering? No. But let me think. When it comes to films, 28 years later, which is a follow-up to 28 days later, is getting me more excited. I wasn't really looking forward to that film, but yeah, that's one that stands out. Ian mentioned that there's a film called Tron Ares, the 3rd film in the Tron series. Now that obviously perks my ears up because I'm a big Tron fan. I love the original, and the follow-up wasn't that bad, if I remember rightly. I've got both of those in physical media, so that's one. And then there was a film a couple of years ago called Megan, which was a little bit like Chucky. It was a doll, that comes to life, and it's got an evil tendency to it. So there's one now called Megan 2.0 coming out this year. Now I'm hoping that the series continues on a high, because it really was a sleeper hit. So much pressure was on that film. In fact, it came out on Blu-ray, and then 6 months later it did so well they came out with a 4K, which meant that most physical media people bought it twice. They didn't know that it was going to come out on 4K. And that is a trick that I don't like physical media doing, where they don't have much confidence that it will sell, that they then sell it again and you buy it twice. That's because then everybody has to sell their original Blu-ray because they want the 4K one. And then there's a flood of Blu-ray editions on eBay. And of course, the person that buys the physical media edition is forking out full price twice. Yeah, don't like that philosophy. When it comes to games, I think it's penned to come out in 2025. But The Witcher 4 is on its way. And I really did like the Witcher series. I've got them all. I've got Witcher 1, 2, and 3. And I played 3 to death. So Witcher 4 will be quite good. And then there's a game that I played a couple of years ago now called Kingdom Come Deliverance. And the 2nd edition of that comes out in the next 3 months. that'll be one for me to watch. Statue-wise, no idea. Haven't bought statues for a couple of years. I nearly bought one, but it was £1,000, so I didn't do it. It was a Spider-Man statue. It was gorgeous. It will go up in value. It won't come down. I won't see it under the bracket of money that the original price was, which means that, do I earmark one statue for 2025, and then at least I've bought one this year? I've got to have a think about that, because it is a very expensive game. Music wise, no idea. Obviously I hear about soundtracks when I watch the film. If I like the film and I watch it again on the second occurrence, and I listen more to what the soundtrack is, I then think about getting the soundtrack. So there's lots of films, so there might be some music there. Comic wise, there'll be the Marvel omnibuses. There will be a Fantastic Four Volume 6. There will be a Spider-Man Volume 6. All of those have got a pre-order. I've pre-ordered a number of them, so that will continue to go. And of course, I've got my regular Spider-Man order through Reed Comics. Terry, who always looks after me, fantastic lady, allows me to pay every 3 months. So I give her a couple of £100, usually in 3-month batches. So I look forward to March, where I'll be giving her her next batch of money, and that will then get those released to me. So yeah, lots of things to look forward to, really. But that's my hobby. 2025, I'm going to be concentrating on my career a little bit. So I'm looking forward, in a way, going back to work Monday. It's going to be the start of a brand new year. And I need to start on a good foot. Don't want to start on a bad foot. Thank you very much, my friends. Salute and Happy New Year to you and your family. You deserve so much this year. Then we get to Wee Bob Art, who's basically put, great as always to listen along, Dow. You mentioned in this video about the attributes of people, and what I would say is that there are attributes of yourself and many others which are much more valuable than the surface level stuff. This includes me as a baldy bass. You have introduced me to a lot of content that I would have missed. Ian Hill, The Ramblings, being a massive highlight of 2024 for me, and probably the channel. I watch as much as I watch your stuff, especially the Wednesday waffle you guys do. The attribute of bringing people together or making people think with strong opinions is a gift, in my opinion. On that note, thank you for those introductions. Oh no, that's wonderful. I was thinking whether I do too much of the community thing. I want people to know that there is stuff out there that I watch that I enjoy, without going overboard and saying, you must watch this. But there are friends out there that I think deserve so much more and deserve your likes and your subscriptions. And even though I might not mention, other channels, they're still there. They're still wanting your attention. They're still great stuff. I have only so much time that I can watch stuff. It's not like these people or their channels are forgotten. I've just moved on from their content to a new content. If you stay in one area, then and it doesn't evolve, then basically it becomes stagnant. That's why it's great then to go back to them. Do you see what I mean? And I will be going back to those ones. It's obvious. It's a continuation. So for all those ones that I don't mention, that doesn't mean stop watching them. It means that I'm going to be going back to them as well. and you should watch them. So absolutely brilliant. You continue. I'm really pleased you enjoyed the holdover. I know it's getting mentioned again. I had a movie day this week as my wife was working and I got access to the TV all by myself. I ended up watching Elevation, which is a standard fare movie but was enjoyable, about a monster's attack on the world and people can only live about 8,000 foot. That means that the entirety of the UK are gone. I watched Andor and then Rogue One. I also watched The Dead Don't Die, which is a Bill Murray movie. Now, I've seen that, a Bill Murray movie, and quite a big cast. A black comedy, a modern take on Dawn of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead. It was. And Bill Murray, I thought, was excellent in that. It gets terrible reviews, but it's really a decent movie, in my opinion. And I did laugh out loud a fair bit. When Bill Murray came on, I couldn't believe it. I went, oh my God, it's Bill Murray. And he was such a joy to watch. He was deadpan in it. This is where the black comedy element comes in. I do like black comedies. You've got to have a little bit of pathos in films sometimes with comedies. They can't be outright hilarious like Naked Gun. Those are fun as well, but they're what they call slapstick. And black comedies have got comedy humor, but with a very dark overtone mostly. Not all of black comedies are like that. So yeah, that's brilliant. It gets terrible reviews, but it's really a decent movie in my opinion, and it did laugh a fair bit. There are parts which are a bit disjointed, but they sort of made the humour work. Anyway, that's been my week. I hope you and your mum are well, and Happy New Year when you read this in your blog next Sunday. Question for next time. You mentioned in this video about your gaming controller. What is the best controller you have for playing arcade games on MAME? If this is something you often do. I love Robotron, but the sticks on my homemade arcade machine are not the best. Maybe I will upgrade them this year. I was thinking about a tank stick, as I would like my mind has drawn a blank on the name, rollerball controller for Missile Command. Anyway, all the best, as I said. Oh, now, I can't show you it, but my favourite controller is my X-Arcade, which has got a trackball on it. I wonder, can I show you what it looks like? I'm going to look now for it, the X-Arcade, and then show my media. See if I can find it. X-Arcade controller. And see if I can get to it. There we are. And I'll show you the controller that I've got. If I can. It's quite old now. Yeah, there it is. And I'll just put media playback on. There we go. So that's my X-Arcade tank stick. You can see, look, all the buttons. The 1 and 2 player at the top. It's got bumpers on the left and right. And that ball in the middle is the track ball. So I've got 2 tank sticks and a roller ball. That is my favourite stick. If you want to see what that looked like. I've already mentioned several times that when I'm playing things on my Mister, I use this, which is the Mayflash Arcade Stick F500 Elite, which is a single controller, but it does have Sandware parts. It's compatible, look, for the PS4, PS3, Xbox One, 360, PC, Android, Switch, Neo Geo Mini. It's absolutely fantastic. Love that. And then I've got my deluxe controller for just standard everyday whatever here, which is the Elite Controller 2. There it is. All of these things swap out, so I can take this D-pad off and put a different one there. It's magnetized. Even these tank sticks of which have got different lengths. So that's that one there. And that's that one there. I'm using the small ones. And it's got paddles underneath. Look, just there. Absolutely fantastic with all the triggers. Absolutely brilliant controller. I've never had the problems that are mentioned on many websites in regards to drift. But I expect that to be something that will happen eventually. You can't help, because it's the way that the thumbsticks are constructed. They get little bits of dust in them, dirt, and the way that the controller works means that drift just sort of like happens. But that tank stick, I've had my tank stick now for 10 years plus. Hasn't broken once. Trackball is lovely, although heavy. Brilliant. And of course, stick that with a PC underneath and a monitor in front of you. Brilliant. I wouldn't say it's great for Robotron, because then your arms are that far apart rather than being like that. But it does work. So absolutely brilliant. So you go. Anyway, all the best you've put. That's the end. Thank you so much, and Happy New Year to you, wee Baba. I love your channel. I love how you draw. I wish I could draw like that. As I told you, I've got an Asus Zen dual screen laptop, which has got an i9 processor and 32 gig of RAM, and it uses a pen. And I use Rebella on it, and I try my best to do what I can, using ellipses and circles and, trying to get light and dark and sketches and all that sort of stuff. And I'm getting there, but it's just, I'm not a fantastic artist, but at least I know the basics. Everything is made up of blocks, circles, squares, that if you look at that poster, that Spider-Man head, you can see it's a circle at the top, and then another circle that you interjoin at the bottom, and then you join the two up, so you get a draw line, and you can basically draw a line through the middle center and then down the center, and you've got your perfect eyepieces. Absolutely easy to do. And then of course you could do all the biceps and triceps. They're just all circles. So 2 circles there, 2 circles there, 2 circles for the head as an oval, a circle then for the shoulders, and so forth and so forth. You just basically just draw. When you get to the elbows, it's a circle in itself. And an elongated circle there, a circle at the end, square boxes for the fingers and the interjoins. Look for your fingers. There's square there, square there, square there. It just becomes natural to a graphic artist. To me, hard. You know what I mean? It's all about anatomy. How far you can move an arm, how it joins, how far back you can move, how to make something dynamic like this. I've read all the books on John Romita Sr., Kirby, John Buscema, all on anatomy. And just recently, I bought some little action figures from a toy company called CT Toys, which do fake versions of much more expensive action figures. But the reason for them is the articulation. And that means that I've now got a physical piece that I can use to understand anatomy, on how far a leg can move and so forth, and I can put it on a stand and then I can draw it. Maybe I'll show that one day. I've been thinking about doing that actually for a while, so we'll see. Happy New Year to you, matey. Thank you so much. And we move to now Martroid, who has put, glad to hear you and your mum had a nice Christmas, Del. I spent the day with my partner at my sister's farm, and it was very good, I must say. Been home a few days now, and I'm just getting ready to head off on a 4-hour drive to visit the in-laws for New Year's in a little rural town named oh my God, Taumaranui. Taumaranui. That's Taumanrunui. Bloody hell. I'm sorry I destroyed that. I am no good at pronunciation. Anyway, I'm thoroughly enjoying this blog today, so we'll hopefully get to finish it off later tonight. Cheers, matey. No, my pleasure. And happy journeys. Hope everything's okay with you. You've been a fantastic supporter of my channel. Thank you for all those games you suggested. A new season will be coming along. You've made me feel like I need to, and to be quite honest, I want to. So that's absolutely fantastic. Happy New Year to you and to your friends, to your family and everybody. And now the last comment is from Mamemeister, who has put, New Year in Scotland has largely died. COVID and mostly lack of money has seen to it. 30 years ago it was a huge, but no more. And this has been encouraged as well by GTB Films, who said, I agree with this. In Edinburgh, corporate greed has played a big part too. What used to be local events that welcomed visitors are now internationally advertised soulless events with eye-watering ticket prices run by commercial partners of the council, and when they can't make a hefty profit they just abandon the event. They hijacked. Sad state of affairs, I'm afraid. And Colin Thompson says, so true. And I have to say, it's such a sad thing to hear all of those comments there. And I actually mentioned it to Mamemeister in a phone call. And I said, the reason I mentioned Hogmanay is because Hogmanay to me is big. It doesn't matter that it's what you were stating too much, that it's died. There are still people like me that want to experience a New Year's Eve that goes into New Year's Day in Scotland. Celebrate a Hogmanay, even if it's not the Hogmanay that was there 30 years ago. 30 years ago, I'd have probably felt less about wanting to do it. It is part of my sort of like bucket list a little bit. I don't really have one. It's a very sketchy thing for me. But Hogmanay was definitely there because I was a whiskey drinker. And it was nice that you said, I've invited you. And he invited me live on his waffle last Friday. And it will happen because my outlook now is much more outgoing. But it has to be also with a feeling that I can't be away from my mum for too long because I'm a carer. It'd be wrong for me to go, Mum, off for 3 days, I'm buggering off to Scotland to get pissed, and then I'm coming back without anybody to look after her. What if she fell down? What happens if there's nobody looking after her? What if she can't get to the post office? What if nobody knew that she'd fell down the stairs and she was down at the bottom of the stairs for days on end, until I got back? No. I have to think of all of these things. So, yeah, I am a little bit trapped, but trapped in a good way, Don't want to say anything else more than that. And that's the end of the comments. So we're going to move on to watched on YouTube, and it's a much shorter list. As I said earlier, a lot of the stuff is reflection stuff, or top 25 films, top 20 films, top 20 games, what I opened at Christmas. Here's my package from this, that, and the other. And I'm very happy for those, but I didn't want to watch them. Do you see what I mean? I wanted to watch something new that said, hey, this is happening. Did you know this in this game? Did you? All that sort of stuff. So, with that in mind, watched on YouTube, there are two that are always watched, which are This Week in Retro and Tech Moan. And to be quite honest, This Week in Retro had a week off. They did a bloopers thing last week. They did nothing this week. That's fine. that's because New Year's is in the middle, and that's probably when they record their This Week in Retros. Probably Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, somewhere around there. So, but Techmoan did something, and he did a DTS 5.1 CD. I missed this one. That's what it's called, if you want to look it up. And basically what he was saying was there was an audio format that came out in sort of like 1997 called DTS 5.1 CD. Now, this is something that I'm aware of, but that's because I had a Laserdisc player, and Laserdisc introduced the DTS 5.1 format for movies, yeah, and it came out with Jurassic Park. And to be quite honest, when I had a Laserdisc player, I had an amp. When I first started buying amps, I've had 5 or 6 since then. And so DTS was part of that package, and therefore you had you had the 5.1 speaker system. You had your front speaker, your 2 left and right, your back left and right, and your subwoofer 0.1. So there you are. But what a lot of people didn't know about, there was a CD format that had DTS 5.1. And what you have to remember about that format is you put the CD into a CD player and you'd hear nothing, because it would just be the digital hiss. The bit that tells you that this is signal that needs to go to the speakers. And therefore you couldn't get to the music without an amp that could play that digital signal. So it worked in my Laserdisc player, and it would work in your CD player. It would read it, but you wouldn't hear any music. There was no way past it, so you couldn't put it in your car either. So really, it was a dead format, even though it was a luscious sound, absolutely gorgeous. So then DVD 5.1 audio came out. And I'll mention that in a little bit, because I've got actually something that arrived this week, which is similar to that format. So it's a very interesting thing to listen to. And definitely I picked up some bits of information about how cinemas used that format. So that's quite good. So those are the 2 that I always watch. So other stuff that I watched this week was a channel called Tony713 ELO. Which is a very old video on YouTube. It's not something that was done last week or anything. But it was a Roy Wood and Annie Haslam on making music together. Now, you might not recognise Annie Haslam. She was part of a band called Renaissance. And she did a song called Northern Lights, which I loved. Back in the early 80s, it's prog rock type thing, as you could probably guess by Roy Wood. But it was an interview with her about how Roy Wood influenced her. I think they got married, got divorced obviously a couple of years later, but she spoke so softly and nicely about Roy Wood and how he composed his music, how he got his soundboard together, because it's a very unique sound Roy Wood came up with, which is why ELO did so well in the early years. So yeah, brilliant. Then, so that's definitely one that I'd listen to. Then there's Cold Beer. That's a channel called Cold Beer. The reason he's in here is it's the end of the year, and of course the Steam sale is on. Where you can buy all your cheap games. It's finished now. Ended on the 2nd of January. But this is where you go down the Steam library, and if there was something there that cost an absolute fortune, you could buy it for a pittance during the week period between Christmas and New Year. And of course, I bought some. I'm a big gamer, as I am a big filmy and TV thing. So yeah, bought some stuff there. Then there was another old video that I watched from the channel called Laurel and Hardy Forums. And it's called the Laurel and Hardy Behind the Scenes. And it introduced a man who actually took you around Carver City in California, showing you where they filmed all those lovely black and white Laurel and Hardy films, the long ones and the short ones. I visited Carver City. I've actually been to where the steps were for the music box there when I've been over to California. Definitely an interesting thing to do. A shame, really, because if you look there, the Hal Roach studio is now demolished. It's been demolished 20, 30 years. But there's a plaque there. But it is nice still to have a little look around, see if you can recognise the odd house that looks sort of like similar to what you saw in the background of a Laurel and Hardy film. Still very good. So that was one that I enjoyed watching. Then there was another one called Alexi Eben. So that's Aleksi and then Eben, Eeben. He showed off on December 30th the Elite preview. That's the game Elite, but on the VIC-20, on the old Commodore VIC-20 running Elite. The Commodore 64 struggled with it. So to see it on the VIC-20, oh my God, I was like going, how much more can you do on this machine? My first colour computer, the VIC-20, which I had for a number of years. And here we are watching Elite on it. My God, I mean, back then, if that had come out, wow. It's just startling to me. Absolutely marvellous. And of course, my dad was very into boxing. And it's weird how at Christmas, I look back at old boxing videos. I look at all the old Muhammad Ali fights, the Nigel Benn fights, the Chris Eubank fights, all of that sort of stuff. Less all of the Lennox Lewis and all of that sort of stuff. Very much that sort of stuff. Anyway, I went to a channel called Boxing Stars, and they put the most unexpected boxing knockouts, which is very fun to watch because it's like all of those ones that were big heavyweights or middleweights or flyweights, cocky as hell, being knocked out in the first round. Sort of like getting their comeuppance. So that was fun. And then we get to some of my friends. Look, these ones are mostly film orientated, but there's my friend Ian Hill, The Ramblings. What can I say about him? You know, I do a live thing with him on Wednesday, but look at listen to his readout here. Look, we've got top sci-fi films from 1991 to 96. Strange Darling, a review on Blu-ray, I believe that is. Trap, a film review there. That's a new film. Faye Films in 2024. So he did as well his own retrospective. Nothing. This is where I'm saying there's nothing wrong in retrospective. See, I'm not trying to say it's disappointing for all the other channels. I'm just saying I saw a number of these. Doctor Who, State of Decay. That's a review of an episode of Doctor Who. X-Files Season 3 Episode 4 review. He did an Alive with Me on Wednesday, which was a highlight for me. Absolutely fantastic channel. Just look at that output. You wouldn't get bored. It's just hard to keep up with, if there's anything. My salute to you, my friend. Happy New Year to you. And this is the same for this next guy, Playtendoguy. I mean, his output is not so much, but he's been a big supporter of me, a great friend of mine. I've been on a number of his chat events, and he did best films of 2024 and the most disappointing films of 2024. And like I say, interesting to watch. So I watched that because I wanted to know more about the disappointing ones actually than the ones that were the best ones. Because being on the chat show, we sort of talk about it and go, oh yeah, I went to the pictures and I really like this film. So you sort of get to know. But the disappointing ones, we don't really talk that much. Less negativity. So yeah, brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. Then we've got my friend Through the Lens, who basically I love his reviews because they're so different to other people's. They're very much more, a little bit more in depth, a little bit more subtlety to them, rather than going out about what the story was about. He'll talk more about script progression, visual elements, whether the music was subtle in this particular scene or harsh, that sort of thing. So he did Baby Girl review and Nosferatu review. Nosferatu being the one that I'm interested in, the one that I want to go and see. And finally, we've got Did You See That? And he did the worst of 2024. Notice I've written that down because it was the disappointment one of Playtendoguy. And then he did an interesting one, which is my personal journey through physical media. So basically, this is where I think, yeah, this is what I want to listen to, not all of the retrospective stuff, which, like I say, I put my hands up and say there's nothing wrong with them. Really like them. I'm so glad that so many out there are doing those, because reflection is what New Year is probably solely about, really, a little bit. But my journey is a personal journey on how he's bought physical media in the past, how he's buying it now, and a retrospective of that journey and what it's meant to him. So absolutely fantastic. What a great video that is. And that's everything that I watched on YouTube, apart from what I'm going to say about my friends. So, just to let you know, there's an awful sort of like lot here. We got down the rabbit hole. So again, what we have to understand here is over New Year, there's less content coming out. That's why there was less content you saw on the other page. And of course, I've been looking after my mum, so of course I've watched less. But there's Down the Rabbit Hole, and he put, I got my arcade pole, I got the My Arcade Mini pole position machine. So he's got this little collection of arcade machines, which are dinky, really nice, like 1/6 scale or something like that, 1/60th scale or whatever. I'm not sure the scale of these, but he's got pole position. It's got a steering wheel on it and an accelerator and everything, and an up and down shift. It looked amazing, and he was just showing off how having that steering wheel is so much better than all of those big consoles with a digital joystick. Absolutely marvelous. I was riveted to that one. Then you got my friend Robert's Retro Gaming, or Canadian royalty. I am not worthy. I have to bow down. Absolutely fantastic. He did No Man's Sky episodes 18 to 21. Minecraft, he's gone back to that play, episodes 124 to 125. Subnautica episode 2. So glad to see that a game I bought for him has got to an episode 2. Not sure if there's going to be an episode 3, but he looks like he's enjoying it himself. Arcade gameplay of a game called Puzzle Oo Poco, which I think is part of the Mamemeister high score kerfuffle at the moment. And then he did some Atari 8-bit gameplay, which is Bubble Bobble, Crystal, and Warcopter. Yeah, that's it, Warcopter. So he's getting his output out again. Remember, he's been on holiday, so he started to build that up again. But the highlight for me was Subnautica, obviously, because I bought it. But it's just one of those games where I'm playing a game series at the moment called Astrometica, which is very, very similar. It's in the same vein. Only Subnautica is about underwater on an alien planet, and Astrometica is in an asteroid field. But it's the same sort of thing. You know, it's you know nothing. You got next to nothing but a survival pack. What are you going to do about it? Absolutely marvelous. I love those types of games. Brilliant. Then, so salute my friend and Happy New Year to you, and same for Down the Rabbit Hole. Steve's Gaming, what did he do? My God. Right, so here we do. He did a couple of Christmas specials. He did my Christmas special, Ponder's Christmas special, 20th Century Gaming's Christmas special, and Andy G, where we've all suggested 3 games to him. I loved it. Absolutely fantastic. Lovely to see the different games that other people had put. And I gave my reason last week on the 3 games that I gave. Absolutely. And I'll stick by it, that I like to give a bit of variety. One that's my favourite game, one that is a real stinker or a hard game, one that we both love, something like that. You know what I mean? So, but he also did a feedback request, which I think is quite ballsy to try and do. He's actually put a video out saying, do you know what? I've come up with so many ideas, and some of them have been hits, some have been misses. It'd like feedback on what people like about it, what people don't like about it, so that he can adapt and get better. what a fantastic thing to do. And he got some information back, and I hope he follows through with it. Absolutely great. I've tried to do that in my blog, and I get some snippets. It's difficult with a blog because it's intended for my nephew and nieces, which means I can't really remove the news element. I can't really remove what I've watched, what I've bought, because those are things for my nephew and nieces to look at. But I can change the format, you know, add a few things here and there, change how it's done, overhead cam or done with this or whatever, talk less about this, do less community, whatever, you know, it's all part and parcel of the scope of things. And then he did a Roadcraft first play, which is on the Amiga. He went and bought an Amiga game, probably the first time in probably 20 years for him, and bought a digital copy of Roadcraft and played that. Brilliant, because he's thinking about doing some homebrew titles which don't get mentioned an awful lot. Brilliant. Happy New Year to you, my friend. Here's my salute to you, you little bastard. I fucking hate you, you little git. And I do wish you a happy New Year. Shall we move on to Colin Jones, aka Ponder, who did the last vlog of 2024. I suppose really I should have done some of these things, you know. I've probably been a bit lazy and I apologise for that. But my reflection was personal to me, and I just thought to myself, you can look at all my blogs to know what retrospectively happened. What I can do is I will go over my old blogs now and put a timestamp in, because that's the old stuff and we're moving into the new stuff. So that old stuff means that you can just click to the bits that you really, really want. And that will aid those. They've already had the hits or plays on the Sunday of the week that it came out. So I'll start putting the date stamp in those. So he did his last vlog, which was very interesting. And he did the Mamemeister high score kerfuffle on that game that I mentioned before, which is Puzzle Oo Poco. Brilliant. And then there's my Happy New Year to you, my friend. And then there's Mamemeister, who gave me a call this week, wishing me Happy New Year. But he also did a Nice and Nasty podcast with which was episode 28 with Dave Perry of names that you need to come out with. Dave Perry, my God, the man who was in Games Master. He's known as the Games Animal. Such an interesting guy. Somebody who I've spoken to in the 12-hour charity stream with Mamemeister. Such a great guy. And Mamemeister also did a remembering of Martin Brown, who we unfortunately lost between Christmas and New Year. He's an ex-Team 17 founder, mostly a manager and producer of games. He did a number of coding bits there for it, though. And just a very, very interesting week from Mamemeister. He also did his waffle, and I believe he'll do his live stream on Sunday tonight. And that's the end of the paper part of the blog. Now, one thing that has happened this week is that there's not too much coming through for me to buy, you know, stuff that's pre-ordered. So there's no trailers again, but the trailers will start as soon as the stuff starts trickling through. But there are a number of things that came through this week. I can put the overhead cam on. There we go. And we were talking about torches when my fence fell down, and it made me think that I haven't really got a torch for the house. So in the January sales, you know, about a couple of days ago, I bought this high lumen flashlight. And it was very cheap, but it came in this nice presentation case, as you can see. It's run by battery or powered rechargeable battery. It's very nice. Looks like a sonic screwdriver of a sort, or a lightsaber, as you can see. But when you switch it on, you can't see that display, but it tells you how powerful it is. It can actually shorten the light and bring the light on it, and of course you can dim the light a little bit with several presses. It gets lower, 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 and then it flashes. Then it does a sort of SOS if you were using this in a car on the road, and then switch off. Absolutely lovely. I think that's something that we'll have in the house, and it comes in a nice presentation box. And like I say, something like this is really handy to have. We have to do meter readings, for the electric and the gas. So, it's very dark under the stairs. Then we've got this. Remember we were talking about DTS-CD? This is not DTS-CD, but it's SDE surround sound series of an Elton John album called Diamonds. But it's Blu-ray Dolby Atmos. So we're embracing now re-encoding of old tunes from Elton John in this instance, but in Dolby Atmos. And you can see all of the tracks that are on there. There are 47 in Dolby Atmos and 3 in preserved PCM. So there's 51 tracks on here. This was given to me as a suggestion by Frank, I think, who mentioned it several weeks ago, and this came out only on the 3rd of January, so it arrived yesterday, so it's brand new. It comes with a booklet in there. It's got a slip cover, very nice. And I'm thinking about getting some of the others because they've done the Alan Parsons Project albums and Queen and a number of others. So that was brilliant. The only film that turned up this week was The Usual Suspects, which is a 4K HDR presentation from Arrow. Very nice. I don't know if I can put that in focus so you can pause it. Usual Suspects is a great film. A little bit like Sixth Sense, though, that once you know who the person was that is the suspect, these are all the suspects, but obviously one of them did the deed. Once you know, it's got less of a watch. But, of course, fantastic performances, which is what makes the rewrite. And then Mamemeister sent me a Christmas present, but it only arrived yesterday. Took this that long to get here. But it's fantastic. Look, it's the book of the story of the Commodore Amiga. And to be quite honest, the Amiga is a very important machine in my life. I had an A1000. I call it the day one A1000, but it was, the month that it came out in the UK. And this is a fantastic book. Obviously, it goes into games and the people that wrote stuff. It does mention the machines. It talks about J Minor, the graphic chip designer, all about the audio, sound chip, Paula, and of course a little bit about the different machines. See, there's a picture of the A500, but I had an A1000. I think there's a picture of the A1000. There it is. There's my lovely machine, the A1000. Gorgeous it was. It says even here, look, the Amiga 1000 finally released at the summer CES in Chicago in 1985. Seen here with the 1081 monitor, which oddly had only one speaker when the Amiga 1000 had stereo sound. That was quite true. And it was released in 1986 over here. It did actually get shown at the Novotel Hotel in 1985, which is where I ordered it. But I got it, I think, January or February of 86. So I got that as a sort of a day one. And that's the end of the blog. Like I say, other than to say to everybody, friends new, friends old, have a fantastic new year. We all need to move on. We all need to be happy. We need to not stress ourselves. Last year, I had a heart attack. Everybody knows about that who looks at my blog. Stress caused it. Obviously, my body has been deteriorating over years, and I haven't looked after it like you're supposed to. But at the end of the day, the stress of anything, whether it be work or caused by conflicts or whatever, caused me to nearly die. A heart attack can kill you. And it's made my outlook look totally different. I don't look with malice at anything. I've cut down an awful lot of things, you know. I've had to change my diet, do more exercise. But I've also reflected this in my blog with a chirpy look at the outlook, with no malice or hatred or anything towards anybody else that's out there. And that's how I'm going to be. You know, that's how it's going to be in 2025. It will continue into there. And there's going to be much more of an open outlook on life, less negativity. There'll still be negativity there. We can't avoid it, but it's how we handle it. And so with that, I'm going to say thank you very much for watching. I hope this has been entertaining. I hope you've got something out of it. Maybe a channel to go and watch. Maybe some of my friends that I've mentioned, you'll think, oh, he keeps mentioning this guy. I wonder what he's like. And he gets you to see something new. Maybe that little bit of information about your PC and the prefetch folder makes you go and have a little look at your PC and have a look at that folder and go, bloody hell, what's all that? And I tell you now, you won't break anything removing the contents of that folder. Just don't delete the folder. And with that, salute, Happy New Year. And I mean that to everybody who's watching this video. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.